The decision to go to UMD was pretty easy for me. It made sense geographically, both as an astronomy and physics major and just as a general STEM major. There's tons of opportunities, whether that be at NASA or another government agency or any other research agency nearby. There's a lot of opportunities for research or internships, but also campus seemed approachable and the students seemed that they genuinely wanted to be there, which is not something I felt was true at all of the other campuses that I toured. It just seemed like a more approachable school, and it seemed like the best option.
The biggest factor in my decision to choose UMD was probably the fact that it is in-state for me, but there were many other considerations. At UMD, I was coming into one of the Living Learning programs, the Gemstone Honors Program, for four-year team research that really seemed like it would be a like-minded, smaller community within this large campus, and it actually has turned out to be like a family for me. That's like the thing with UMD. You get all the big pep from being a Big Ten school, but you still also get research opportunities from the close access to institutions like the NIH, and you get to build cool connections from all the niche clubs and organizations on campus too. There's a little bit of everything for everyone here, and I found my places at UMD.
All right, so when I was applying to colleges, I wanted to go somewhere that was bigger than my high school, which was around 2,500 kids. So I applied mainly to big state schools like Maryland. I also didn't want to go to a school that was right in the middle of a city. My older brother went to George Washington University, and I wanted more of a campus feel than what he had there. So when I visited Maryland, I thought that it was perfect, and a benefit was that it's still close to DC. So DC is still very accessible. We can still go there, get internships there, and it's super easy to get to. Another thing that stood out with Maryland when I was deciding where to go is I did a program called Terp for a Day where I shadowed a bunch of current students and went to classes with them. And I felt like the professors in the classes that I visited were like extremely nice and cared about their students more than the professors at other universities. And on top of that, the students that I was talking to as an accepted student when I was deciding where to go were at Maryland like significantly nicer to me. So I felt like that like kindness element from everyone at Maryland was very present, more so than the other schools that I was deciding between, and it checked all the boxes I wanted. It was a big school, had a great, beautiful campus feel, close to a city. It obviously has a very good STEM program, and the professors really care about their students, even at the undergraduate level.
For me, the decision to come to UMD was a tricky one because I live in Texas, and Maryland is quite far away from Texas, so I was considering a few schools in-state, but then I was also considering a few schools like Maryland out of state. And really what it came down to was the quality of the education, and so I know that computer science at Maryland is top 10 in the nation, and so that was a really big push for me to come here. And also just the location of it, because Maryland is really close to DC, and so a lot of companies come from DC to recruit from Maryland, and especially being in computer science, a lot of cybersecurity companies and government agencies come, and that was a big factor for me because I knew that I would have a lot of job opportunities coming out of college because I went to Maryland. So that is why I chose.
As an out-of-state student, I came on a campus not knowing anybody, but I found that it was pretty easy to make friends, both through living in the dorms my freshman year. I made a lot of friends just by the people that I interacted with every day, but I also made friends through joining Greek life, being involved in stuff in my department, and joining other student organizations. So I think the best way to make a big school seem small is to be involved in student orgs or your department or whatever other opportunities you have that will help you create a sense of community with a smaller subset group of students.
So for me, coming from out of state, I was pretty scared coming to college. I only had 2 or 3 other people from my high school coming with me, and I wasn't close with any of them. So right off the bat, I had to get a completely fresh start in terms of making all new friends. The first week or so of school, I just became close with the kids on my floor at my dorm. It's hard not to, honestly, when you're living in such close quarters with them. I had a random roommate. I decided to do that, and it worked out perfectly. We're still really good friends now. I think that another big thing with STEM classes is you'll take a lot of the same intro-level classes with a lot of the same people. So your classes are an easy way to meet people, something to talk about, and it can kind of turn into a social way of studying together, and then you become friends that way. So the school itself does a good job of making smaller things for you to for the school to feel less big. I also think it's important just to get involved. My first semester, I played club volleyball, which was a great way to meet other freshmen and even meet like upperclassmen, give me advice and stuff. And then a bunch of other clubs. There's a big club fair, so I would just say the school doesn't really feel impersonal because right away you're living with other people who are in the exact same boat as you. It's not like you're the only new kid. No one really knows anyone, so everyone's just trying to make friends at the same time.
So I think the best quote that I heard when doing college visits personally was that you can make a big school feel small, but you can't make a small school feel big. In my opinion, this has very much been the case. There are always going to be people around you, whether it's in residence halls or in classes, and just simply saying hi to someone opens up so many doors. In fact, in my first class of college, I ended up meeting two of my closest friends, and because of them, I was introduced to so many great organizations on campus, where I've met so many people with such diverse backgrounds.
When I first came to the University of Maryland, I was really nervous about going to such a big school. I was worried that I wouldn't be able to make friends. Although it was really easy to adapt once I started joining different clubs and organizations. I started off by joining a dance team because it was something that I was very familiar with. I met so many girls that had the same interests as me, and I quickly became friends with all of the girls on the team. It was so nice to have a small group of friends at such a big school. I also joined a volunteer organization called Terps for Change, where I met so many people who were just as interested in volunteering as I was. It was so nice to have these different organizations and make different friends with people at the university who had the same interests as me. I also quickly made friends with people in my classes and had small groups of people to study with, so it was super easy to make such a big school much smaller once I got to know people at the university.
I think that we're all extremely passionate about our school and really proud to be able to say that we're Terps. And this is something that you can feel all the time, whether you're at like a sporting event or at Maryland Day. Everyone is just so proud to be wearing their red, black, and gold and calling themselves a Terp. And I think that that's just generally something that all students really feel.
I would describe Maryland students as diverse, driven, and passionate.
I would describe Maryland students as diverse. Everyone comes from different states, countries, backgrounds, cultures, but everyone finds their place here on campus. There are so many different clubs and activities that you can join for like any of your interests. And most importantly, I think Maryland students have so much pride. We are all Terps. We love going to soccer games, basketball games, football games, like Maryland Day. There are so many different activities where you can show your pride. And most importantly, go Terps.
So I describe Maryland students as, well, there's multiple things you can call us, but I think the top three that are really important for me are driven, passionate, and entrepreneurial. And I know some of them have a lot of, those three words have a lot of overlap in some ways. But yeah, that's how I describe the average Maryland student. And that was really important for me when coming here because I tend to learn a lot more from outside the classroom, right? I love, learning, and I love being inside the classroom and learning, but I feel like a lot of the hands-on experience is really where I think I do a lot of my learning best. And so having a student body that is passionate and driven and doing things outside of class, I think really kind of lit a flame within me in order to also kind of pursue those kinds of things and see those things are kind of possible. And from all those experiences, whether it be like hackathons or side projects or internships or, research, tons of things that you could do outside the classroom, I think that's what really gave me and really strengthened my educational experience here at Maryland. And of course, there's tons of other things that you can say about us students. And I would say, on average, the Maryland students are very courteous, kind, friendly, welcoming. But I think what, for me, some of the more kind of striking characteristics are the kind of the drivenness, that ambition. I keep adding words, but you get what I'm saying.
I feel like everyone has interests outside their major and are really passionate about the work that they do, not only to get their degree, but also their side hobbies as well. I love how I'm able to start up so many conversations with other students at Maryland and just learn not only about their major and their usual conversation topics, but also all their side hobbies and interests. Another thing I love about Maryland students is I feel like it's a very collaborative atmosphere, and everyone's always willing to lend a hand and help each other out. Like, the program is hard and it's very challenging, but you don't find that competitive nature that I saw in some other colleges I was looking at.
Okay, so do science majors have time for a social life? I think that the answer is yes. So I'm a physics major and I definitely have to take tough classes. I have a lot of homework, exams to study for. I'm involved in research. So there's a lot on my plate, but I've really had no trouble balancing a social life with all of that. I think that the college experience is really what you choose to make of it. So if having a social life, having a lot of friends outside of your major, within your major is really important to you, whatever you want to do, you can do that. So I've made plenty of friends within my major. I've met a lot of people through Women in Physics, Society of Physics students. So sometimes my social life and my science life, they really like bleed into each other. And I think you can do whatever you want with your time here.
I think science majors do have time for a social life. It all depends on the person themselves and how much time they're willing to dedicate towards their education or their different extracurricular activities or just time management in general. For instance, I'm a biology major, but I also work at the family business on the weekends and after school some days. In addition to being involved on campus, I was on the executive board of a cultural organization and I shadow and volunteer in my free time as well. So ultimately it comes down to how well you are willing to manage your time, but also there are some weeks where like you cannot go out, you have like a wave of exams, so you have to plan everything accordingly, but there are also some weeks where you're just free and you can hang out with your friends on campus or do like fun activities.
A common question asked is, do science majors have time for a social life? And I'm here to tell you they do. I'm a biology major and I'm also in a social sorority, Sigma Kappa. And I was also on the executive council last year of this chapter. And it is a little bit rough because your schoolwork is a lot of time, but during your freshman year, you really learn time management and how to balance these two aspects of your life.
Science majors here at UMD definitely have time for a social life as well as maintaining strong academics. I would say come to UMD with an open mindset and ready to strengthen your organization and time management skills, more so than coming in ready to invest all your time in your academics just because you can seamlessly do both. My first 2 years through my basic biology, chemistry, math classes, I made a really great group of friends who were actually in a co-ed professional pre-med fraternity and encouraged me to rush. And that's what I did my sophomore year. So I have my social life through that and through other sports clubs and intramural sports, but I can also maintain my academics. So it's really just time management. And I know you'll hear that a lot, but you can fit all of them if you really want to.
So my favorite CMNS course has been Math 461, or Linear Algebra for Scientists and Engineers. As a CS and Econ double major, linear algebra can be a very useful tool, especially in regards to analytics, and I feel that my understanding of topics in both majors has become more enhanced because of concepts I learned in Math 461.
My favorite course so far has been CMSC 389N, which is Introduction to PHP and JavaScript. I really enjoy it because I'm really interested in web development. That's kind of the career path I want to go down. And the teacher is very interactive and we do a lot of in-class demos, so I can really understand the topics and understand what we're doing with JavaScript and how to build a website basically.
My favorite CMNS course so far has been AOSC 200, and I took that with Dr. Tim Canty. And that class is the Introductory Weather and Climate course, which goes along with what my major is because I'm an atmospheric and oceanic science major. And it's overall been my favorite because he knows how to connect well with students, he knows how students learn, and he just made the topic interesting, and it was also a gen ed, so he knew that there were non-majors in the class, but he still was able to make the lectures interesting, and he would even do demonstrations to help connect the topics and make it easier to learn.
So my favorite biology class so far has been cell bio, which people normally take their sophomore or their junior year, and I really liked this class because I thought it taught us a lot about what happens in the cell, which was pretty cool to me because it dictates a lot that happens outside of the cell on a much larger scale. And I also liked it because it had a hands-on lab also associated with it, which I thought was pretty cool, where we got to do a lot of the experiments and common lab techniques that you always read about.
The way that I would handle academic pressures was I just made sure that I was always on top of my work. I would make sure to pace things out so that I knew when I had a big assignment due, I would kind of get smaller assignments due, so I had more time to either work on that assignment or study for tests. As for competition, I feel like I definitely got better with that as I got older. I learned to just focus more on myself and not really care about how other people did and just focus on doing the best that I could. And I feel like that actually helped me be a better student overall.
So I think for me, the biggest thing to handle academic pressures and competition is to find a support system in my major and outside my major. This is really important because sometimes you want people that are going to understand the classes that you've been taking, understand the difficulty or the professor, or just the dynamic of what specifically goes on in your class. And sometimes you just want someone outside the major who's completely unrelated, that's just there to support you, there to talk you through it, there to help you de-stress, and there to just kind of keep your energy going. Because I think you just need a good balance of in and out.
When it comes to handling academic pressures and competition, it's extremely important to have this down, to have a healthy college experience. For me, when it comes to pressure, there's a 24-hour period in the week where I don't do any work for religious reasons, but it turns out to be one of the healthiest things that I have done, or a healthiest practice that I have, because just taking that time off allows me to rejuvenate and work more effectively the rest of the week. I also use calendars to the max. I'm a huge fan of very closely scheduling my time to make sure that I get the things done that I want to get done. And when it comes to competition, I don't pay attention to it. The great thing about college is everybody has their own goals to meet. So I focus on my own goals and make sure not to pay attention to any pressures from the other people because they're on their own track and I'm on my own as well.
In most of my classes, I do speak with professors, and that's when I either go up to them after class to ask questions or during their office hours. So in my experience, professors are pretty accessible and approachable, whether I'm asking a content-related question about career advice or sometimes just even to chat. They're really there for you and willing to help. And the professors whose office hours I frequented definitely do know me. And it's really what students make of it, taking the initiative to introduce yourself at the beginning of the semester, continuing to go into office hours, actively asking questions will form that connection with professors, and maintaining it also means visiting those I liked even after I've passed their class.
I absolutely speak with my professors, and I speak with them on a regular basis. They know who I am. They're normal people. If you're willing to go in and make an effort to get to know them, they'll definitely want to get to know you. I still keep in touch with professors I had freshman year, and just a really good resource for a lot of reasons, and they'll definitely have an interest in getting to know you as long as you put in the effort as well.
So at this point in my college career, I'm a junior, and a lot of my professors, I'd say all of my professors know me by name and know my face and stuff like that, and I do talk to all of my professors privately. It's a little harder when you're a freshman in those big math courses, because there's about 150 people in there and it's kind of hard to pick up people. But I did get all of my math professors knew my name because I went to office hours and I was annoying in lecture. I asked a lot of questions. You can get all of your professors to know your name, and you should get all of your professors to know your name, because that means you're truly engaging with the content. And it's definitely, if you put in the effort, you will get your professors to know your name, and it will be an enjoyable experience for both of you because you'll get to learn more and they'll get to learn more too.
I don't normally talk to my professors just because I'm more on the shyer side and a little more introverted, but when I have done, they've always been super helpful and friendly and are always really good at explaining things I don't understand and just being a nice person to talk to if I need advice for computer science or for any other subject. One of my professors does know me by name. He's one of my former computer science professors, and I hadn't even spoke to him previously. He just knew me because I always sat in the front and I was always taking notes. So he talked to me and it was really nice.
And I am a master's student in the computer science department. I'm what's part of the MSBS program where you do your whole bachelor's and master's in 5 years. So I finished my bachelor's degree in computer science last semester. I'm finishing my master's this year, thankfully. And the question is, do you ever speak with your professors? Does any of them know who you are? And the answer is yes. Maybe not in the beginning. My first year I was a little shy. They're big classrooms, so I was a little intimidated. But I shouldn't have been. And I keep telling this to all, any students I teach or anybody I kind of come in contact with. It's very important, I think, to reach out to professors, and they want it. They really want the kind of connection with students for a few reasons. First of all, it's really good to reach out to professors just so they know who you are, and if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you can address them personally. The other big reasons are, first of all, almost every professor teaches, so every professor looks for a teaching assistant, which is usually a paid job. In grad school, I don't pay tuition because of it, because of me reaching out to some of the professors I had before and asking if they need somebody like me, which really worked out my benefit. Another one is research. Almost every professor does research here on campus. And they rely on undergrads or grads to kind of conduct this research for them, which is for us also could be paid. Also, we may get credits and just a great experience overall, and really does set us apart from some of the other students and applicants, looking for jobs. And also, number three, the third reason, or fourth, I forget which one I'm on. It's really important to reach out is just advice. Professors are very good at giving advice. It's kind of why I think they're in that role as professors. So yeah, a lot of good internships, work advice. Class advice, how to do well, I've gotten from professors and teachers, instructors that I've had. So yeah, I do talk to my professors quite often, and I think it is important to. They're always open. They always have office hours, and some of them, even outside of their regular office hours, they have, you can grab coffee with them. You could do, depending on which professor and how open they are to it, but they're all looking for that kind of student interaction. Otherwise, I don't think a lot of them would be here. They'd be out kind of maybe more in the private sector.
I'm a sophomore computer science major, so I'm still doing a lot of the more introductory required courses amongst all CS majors, so my classes do tend to be pretty large, about 300 for each of my CS classes so far. But with that being said, we do break into smaller discussion sections about once or twice a week, and they're led by TA. So this is more of your traditional high school classroom. It's about 30 students each, and this is your chance to kind of talk about projects, ask questions, maybe on topics you don't understand, for TAs to kind of go over the material you learned in lecture that week. And it's just a really nice way to break down the large class sizes. In addition, a large class means a lot of TAs. So that means that their office hours will be staggered so that you can pretty much go in any time from 9 to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday, which is a really, really nice perk that not a lot of classes offer. So that is a pretty nice thing that large class sizes can do.
The largest class that I have in my major this semester is actually a very small class. So it's BSci 416, which is human genetics. And it's a class of 14 people, so it's very small. And we also have two professors, both that have different skill sets and backgrounds. And so we're able to take advantage of those and have more in-depth discussions because of the small size of the class. I'm really thoroughly enjoying it.
So CMNS does offer a lot of support in very tough classes and in weed out classes. In the physics department, for example, there's the Society of Physics Student Tutoring, which is tutoring by peers or physics majors, and the Scholastic Clinic, which is tutoring from retired professors. These two services are free, and they're for all introductory classes and labs. And they can go above introductory level as well. There's also a lot of help outside of CMNS as well. For example, I work for Math Success, which is a math support service through the Department of Resident Life, which is also free for all students. And we help with every possible math class and any other class that requires math concepts.
Many of the introductory computer science classes can be quite large. And so any of these larger lectures will also have a smaller discussion section that meets once a week with a teaching assistant that will meet with all the other teaching assistants and the instructor every week to make sure that everyone's teaching the same material and on the same page. These classes will also offer office hours with teaching assistants and the instructor every week. And if you have a particular connection with one of the TAs, maybe your discussion TA or a TA that you see at office hours, many of these courses also offer the option to meet one-on-one with the specific TA or with the instructor.
CMNS does offer a lot of resources for these really tough, weed out classes. I remember specifically Orgo 2, I had a tutor, and I was really nervous about getting a tutor because, no one likes to admit that they're doing bad in a class, but CMNS made it so easy. There's a list of tutors for these super hard classes that are TAs doing it part-time on the CMNS website because they know how difficult it is, and I had a lot of support and ended up being very successful.
CMNS does do a very good job with offering support and help in those weed out classes or the early classes in your college career. They're able to provide GSS services, which is a group study session led by a peer of ours that took the class either a semester or 2 semesters ago and did very well. And they're able to help you with content, answer questions, offer advice, and even help prep you for the exam. We also have TAs in each lecture that hold discussions for about 20 people. That is a small setting for you to get extra help, extra clarification on content being taught, offer advice, get tips, get help with the exam, etc., whatever you need the TA to help you with. We also have our own advising office. You have to meet with an advisor for the first 2 years every semester to make sure that you're on track to graduate. The advisor can help you help answer any questions and make sure that you have the support that you need to keep going forward. And lastly, the professors are always accessible to help and they want to help, but you do have to go out and ask for that help. So if you feel like you're struggling, please, please, please ask. Don't let yourself fall behind, and everyone is willing to help, but you gotta ask. So be okay with needing help because that's a lesson that you need to learn early, that you're not gonna know everything. And sometimes you aren't gonna understand everything, but it's okay to ask for help. Everyone's willing to help. Thank you.
So a few semesters ago, I was in this really tough math methods class for physics. We had a really tough professor and the homework was super hard and I was really nervous about how this class was going to go. So one of the most useful things for me for passing that class was going to talk to my TAs and my professors during their office hours. So I definitely felt nervous about going there and asking maybe stupid questions, but honestly, I never felt that my professors made me feel ashamed for asking these questions. It was honestly super helpful to talk to them and understand what they wanted from me, what I needed to know for their exams, for their homework. And it's just such a useful resource, the faculty at Maryland, because not only are they super welcoming to students visiting them, they are also super helpful. They really do just want to see you succeed. So I think that's definitely such an important resource to take advantage of here.
During my time at Maryland, I've taken some very tough courses. In order to get through these courses, I've gone to a lot of guided study sessions, which is where a group of students who are in the class come together and one teacher, who is a student who previously took the class, helps us with the material. They answer our questions and also go over the lecture material that we've done that week. It's incredibly helpful, and if I need additional help, I love going to office hours with my TAs or my professor. Depending on the class, some classes have multiple TAs, so it's very helpful to go to different TAs, get their opinions, and ask them questions whenever they come up in class. Also, many professors are very easy to reach out to and very willing to help you when you have questions about their class.
So for the past 2 summers, I've interned at the National Institute on Drug Abuse, which is an NIH summer internship program. So I found out about the NIH summer internship because a lot of the people on my floor freshman year had done it in high school. And so they had showed me how to apply and gave me a lot of good tips and tricks on how to email PIs and how to find PIs that usually take summer interns. So I applied to that online, and then the big thing about that internship is that you have to email all the PIs on your own to try to find a lab that's willing to take you on for the summer.
I found my internship at NASA Goddard through my astronomy advisor. At the end of the fall semester every year, she sends a very comprehensive list of all the possible internships and research opportunities for the summer that she can think of and can find. And obviously NASA was one of the possible internships, so I applied and was lucky enough to get one as a freshman. Then each subsequent year, it was easier to get an internship there because I already had my foot in the door.
Hi, my name is Vera, and I'm a current intern in the Bioanalytical Chemistry Department at the Center for Food Safety and Applied Nutrition, which is a branch of the FDA. I was able to get this internship after applying my freshman year to the Joint Institute for Food Safety and Applied Nutrition program, which is a partnership between UMD and the FDA. I was able to find out about this program initially by talking to someone in the CMNS office, but when it was time to apply for it and positions for interns came out, I actually received a notification from the CMNS listserv that they were looking for interns specifically within GIFSAN. So I was able to apply, and the application process itself was very easy. All you needed to talk about was why you were interested in the internship and some research experience that you've had in order to be able to get this position. I highly recommend you apply if you're interested in doing a food safety research.
This summer, I'm going to be interning at Perspecta Labs, their cybersecurity contractor. I got my internship at the Computer Science Career Fair in the fall at the hotel right across the street from the new Computer Science building. They just filled the convention center with companies, all of which have had such a great experience with their University of Maryland students, and they're just dying for more. And so Perspecta was actually the last stall I went up to. They said, by the way, we're going to be around tomorrow if you'd like to come in for an interview. And so I interviewed the very next day.
I've done research the past 2 summers at the NIH, and before coming to UMD, I knew about the NIH, but more so as a student here at the university, just because sometimes your professor will assign a reading and it's a research article that was published by a lab at the NIH or funded by the NIH. So, and really by word of mouth, just because a lot of the students here can't recommend it enough, doing research there. So the NIH has a summer internship program that I applied to, and I loved it so much the first semester, or the first summer, and made a few connections that I was able to come back the next summer, actually doing clinical research. So I've done both lab bench research and clinical research.
So I am not in the intended major that I had as an incoming freshman. I was a microbiology major, and I took a few of the introduction courses, and I slowly began to realize that biology really wasn't something that I was passionate about. I didn't have the drive that a lot of other people and a lot of my peers had. So I decided to change majors, and I'm currently an applied mathematics major, which is a whole world in itself, totally different from biology. But changing majors at UMD really isn't that difficult. I actually went to my advisor, talked to her about everything that I was thinking. She walked me through the process. I filled out a couple forms, met with a new advisor from the math department, and got everything situated. And within a matter of days, my major was changed, and I was signing up for classes within my current major.
So I came into UMD as a biological sciences major with a specialization in cell biology and genetics. I'm in my 3rd year now, and I'm still a biological sciences major, but I did switch my specialization to neurobiology and physiology, and it was a very simple process. I just had to fill out a form, and I made sure to adjust my 4-year plan.
So I came in as a chemistry major, as a chem major for 1 semester, but by the end of my first semester here, I realized that a bio major would better align with the pre-med track, and I kind of found that that's where my interests lied. And so I switched to biology with a concentration in physiology and neurobiology. It was really easy to do since chemistry and biology are in the same department. They're in the same college of CMNS. It was super easy. All I had to do was fill out a sheet of paper, and I was good to go.
So I'm double majoring in astro and physics, and I find that for astro and physics, the double major isn't too bad because there's a lot of overlap in those two. So a lot of the courses I have to take for astro, I also have to take for physics. And you end up taking about 6 more courses at the end of the day. So there's a limitation on how many clubs you can join. So I'm only in 1 club at the moment, and I find that it's easy to handle the 1 club, the Maryland Equestrian Club, and the course load, because I take about 18 credits per semester. And I know that at the end of my senior year, I won't have as much room for just elective courses. I'll have to take a couple labs and a couple extra physics courses. But I like physics, so I don't think it's too bad.
Well, majoring at Maryland is challenging, but it's definitely doable.
Everyone really wants to support you, from the professors to the advisors, and really help you succeed. Personally, I am a senior double majoring in computer science, operations management, and business analytics within the Robert H. Smith School of Business. And one thing that I love about double majoring at Maryland is that you actually get one advisor for each major you have. So my business advisor works with my computer science advisor to make sure I'm taking the harder business classes when I take the easier computer science classes, and vice versa, so I can still maintain great work-life balance.
Yes, so I placed out of CMSC 131, which is the Java 1 class for the comp sci majors, with my AP credit. That was the only one that I got. I didn't place out of any math or any other science. So I went right into 132, and in my opinion, I kind of wish that I took 131 at Maryland, because I think it would have set me up better, because the 131 and 132 do really go together well. And I think it would have been a good segue. Now, having said that, I did take 132 and passed, and then took 216 for my spring semester, which people typically take the fall of their sophomore year, and I failed it the spring semester of my freshman year. So when I failed it and had to retake it for my sophomore year, I actually was back on track. So in that regard, like, it helped me because I didn't have to like do extra coursework altogether. Like, I didn't have to take a summer class, but I do think maybe if I had taken 131 and then 132, I might not have failed 216. So it's kind of up to you.
So I used all of my AP credits, the big ones that I took. I'm a bio major, so I took AP Bio, AP Chem, AP Calc, and AP English. And any classes that those got me out of, I did not take the UMD version of those classes. And I would highly recommend it, just because you obviously know the material well enough because you got a 4 or a 5 on the exam, and then it's really helpful for your schedule. So I didn't have to take a ton of hard classes my first semester freshman year, which was really nice because it gave me a lot of time to adjust to the college lifestyle.
Hi, so I'm a general biology major, and I took AP Bio when I was in high school, and I ended up using the credit to get out of the first 2 semesters of biology requirements for the major at UMD. And I thought AP Bio was really thorough at my school, at least. And I think it really prepared me for like college level biology classes, just because it covered so much material. And I also am really happy that I did that, because it basically let me skip like a whole year of bio requirements, and I can now take more biology classes that interest me more than like the required classes. So I would definitely go ahead and do it if you're able to. I don't have any regrets doing it.
Coming into college, I was planning on using my AP and IB credits to essentially test out of my major related courses. For example, I tested out of Gen Chem 1 and Gen Chem 2, so I went straight into Orgo freshman year. And I also tested out some intro physics, so I ended up I'm currently taking physics 3. And I think the decision to do this really depends on how rigorous your high school course load was. For me, I felt like my classes were pretty intense in high school, so I felt prepared for college. But in a general sense, it is important to keep in mind that for the most part, college courses are a lot harder than high school classes, and you have a lot less structure as well. You aren't given like weekly homeworks, etc. Or you might be, but some classes you won't be. You just have a few midterms and exams that determine your entire grade. So when you're looking at the courses, just keep that in mind.
I would say that CMNS prepared me super well in order to apply to medical school. I'm now a senior. I've gone through the whole taking classes, taking the MCAT, applying to medical school and getting in. And I would say I owe a lot of my success to the CMNS program. The advisors are fantastic for getting you on track, starting day one to prepare your 4-year plan if you're pre-medical. And then also the classes. So many of my core biology, chemistry, math, physics classes are classes that I needed in order to take the MCAT, the medical school entrance exam. And so much of it is going to be what I need while in medical school. And so I would say I owe a lot of my success in that regard to CMNS.
University of Maryland does a great job of preparing students for medical school. I'm a pre-med,
I often contacted the Health Professional Advising Office, which is a great resource at University of Maryland. They provide counseling and resources for pre-med students. I went to them for the first time during my sophomore year when I was really, really struggling, and I lost confidence in my ability to be pre-med and make it to medical school, but they provided me a lot of support and they gave me resources to achieve my goals. So the Health Professional Advising Office at University of Maryland is very unique and one of the best resources I feel like a pre-med could have.
Freshman year, students will typically focus on learning object-oriented programming using Java. Then students will learn C. After that, students will study a few different programming languages, their differences, and when to use which type of language, some of which include OCaml and Ruby. Once students reach the upper level courses, languages may vary depending on the class. In terms of the coding interview, I feel as though the material that I learned in my intro-level courses, taken within my first 2 years at Maryland, have been very beneficial. There are also a number of resources to help prepare students for coding interviews, such as workshops led by recruiters and engineers, as well as online practice.
What CS languages do majors learn? Do they learn how to succeed in coding interviews? So, excellent question. And so I'll answer the first one first. So in the beginning, CS majors, they learn the first 2 semesters Java, then C and assembly, and then when the 300 levels, they learn just kind of an array of languages. There's a class called Introduction to Programming Languages, where the whole point is they throw kind of just a mix of all different programming languages at you with the goal of getting you to like be able to pick up languages very quickly and learn like the different types of languages there are there between functional programming languages, logical, all that stuff. And then after that, it really is up to the professor who's teaching the class. Like, let's say you're taking a graphics course. Probably going to do it in C++, or a distributed computing course. That's probably going to be maybe in Go or whatever other language that the professor thinks is important. Because language, just like anything else, is just basically a tool to accomplish, to do a job. And what's great about this programming in Maryland is they don't really teach you to be like, you don't come out as a Java developer. You come out as a software engineer who can really like learn very quickly a wide array of languages, whatever is used in that company or whatever thing you need for the problem you're trying to solve. And then the second one, yes. Do we learn how to succeed in coding interviews? Yes. And I think it is kind of built into the classes like algorithms. It's CMSC 351, that's what it's called. And you do go over the basics of how to, not the basics, you get pretty in depth about, a lot of it's basically the way you speak in a computer science manner. That starts from 132, which is your second semester. You start speaking in the language of computer science, which is asymptotic complexities and traversal times and all that. In addition to that, you also have, let's say we have a 1-credit course geared toward helping students succeed in interviews, in coding interviews. On top of that, you also have resume writing workshops. You have internship, interview workshops. You have a ton of resources. And aside from that, I'd also recommend is like the Bible for computer science coding interviews is Cracking the Coding Interview by Gail McDowell. It's like a hyphenated name, I forget, but it's great. So it is kind of built into the system, and I think that's why University of Maryland students tend to do really well and go wherever we want. That's why so many companies come here as well.
So you can definitely study abroad as a science major. You can definitely go abroad and figure out how to do it for an entire semester and still graduate on time. Or if you're like me, you can go abroad for a short-term program. So what I did is I went abroad this summer. I went to Australia. It actually counted as an upper-level biological sciences elective. We spent a few days in Sydney. Then we flew up north to Darwin and went camping in the outback. And of course, went to Cairns and did the Great Barrier Reef. It was a super great experience. And we also went with professors from the biological sciences department. So I got to make lasting relationships with them as well as all the other students on the trip.
This is a great question. Yes, all science majors can study abroad. They could do a full semester abroad. I studied abroad, but I did 2 winter abroads because I didn't want to be taking hard classes while I was in another country. So I did 2 winter abroads, one my sophomore year to Sydney, Australia for 3 weeks, and then one in January to Singapore, Malaysia, Vietnam, and Thailand. Both were incredible experiences. I met a lot of people outside my major, but I know people that go for full semesters too, and they also have a great time. So tons of options. You can go anywhere around the world.
Last year, I studied abroad in Sydney, Australia, and it was actually very easy to do. I took 3 classes that all counted for my major, which is biology with a concentration in physiology and neurobiology. So when I was there, I took biochemistry, clinical and experimental neuroscience, and neurophysiology. And all I had to do was get those classes pre-approved by the UMD department heads before I left. And so, yeah, I'll be graduating on time without having to take any summer, winter classes. So it was actually very easy to do.
There were so many cool things that I did at UMD. I think 2 that really stand out are 1, my education abroad experience, but I'll talk about that in another video, and 2, an alternative break I did through Hillel. Alternative breaks is a huge program on campus. You basically learned about a certain issue all year. The one I was involved with was women's health, and then during spring break, we went on a week-long service trip where we kind of applied that knowledge to different service learning and community service activities. So for my trip, we traveled to Atlanta, Georgia, but there's over 20 different programs run through STAMP, and there are a few programs run through Hillel too.
The coolest thing I've been a part of at UMD is student-initiated courses, or STICs. And I started out in fall 2018 as a student facilitator for a course that I designed called Mathematics and Classical Music in the math department. And I taught the course for 3 semesters. And since February of 2019, I have been on the executive board of the organization, helping students design their own innovative courses that fill 1 credit or 2 credit courses and are real courses that are offered by departments across the university. And I'm now a co-executive director of this organization. It's been a really amazing experience, and I am really fortunate to have been a part of this organization in my time at UMD.
The coolest thing I've taken part in as a student at UMD has been the creation of a new course within the Atmospheric and Oceanic Science department. When I first came to college, I wanted to be a broadcast meteorologist, but at the time we didn't even have a class for it in my department. So a few other students and I decided to form a club where we would make weather clips doing forecasts as if we were broadcast meteorologists. From there, our department caught notice of that and decided that they would help us create an actual course. From there, we got Samara Theodore from NBC4 in Washington, D.C. to teach the course, and it was just really cool to see the development of the course from just our club from the very beginning.
For me, the coolest thing that I've done as a student at the University of Maryland would be research. I've done research with the Department of Chemistry and Biochemistry for about 2 years. Previously, I had no research experience, but research has allowed me to apply what I've learned in my classes in a laboratory setting to learn new things, new skills, meet people with similar interests, and build relationships with faculty. It's pretty easy for students interested to get involved with research on campus. All you have to do is to look online at departmental websites and to talk to professors in person and try to join their lab. I'd recommend any student interested to give research a try.
One of the coolest experiences I've had as a UMD student was being able to lead an alternative breaks experience to Port-au-Prince, Haiti, where we engage in service learning. So not only are we learning about community development in that case after disaster, but also being able to serve, and we taught English with local community organizations. And that was a really profound experience for me, not only as a Francophone person with, roots in the Caribbean, but also to learn about how important it is not to dehumanize people based off of what we hear in the media, and also the profound lesson that sustainable change in communities must happen from the ground up by empowering leaders in that community as opposed to outsourcing all the labor and leadership that you need.
So college is really fun because you learn a lot of different things about yourself. You learn about how you work in different relationships, but with your teachers and your friends and things like that. But for me, I think the biggest thing I learned is how to be independent because growing up and being in high school, you're always on this routine and you're in class for 8 hours a day. So it's really clear what your week is going to look like. And you might have extracurriculars and your parents have things that they kind of set for you to do. So when you get to college, just having this free time and like the ability to advocate for how your day is going to go and just plan everything out for yourself and like learn what works best for you. That was like really the most amazing thing that I learned. It's like how to build my day to make it most productive and exciting for me, because everyone's really different. And for a long time, I had just been doing it like I was supposed to do through high school, and college gave me the ability to do whatever I want.
During college, I learned that I'm a lot more outgoing than I thought I was. I do like sitting at the front row of all my lectures and stuff like that to make sure I ask enough questions. And I learn best by going to talk to people in office hours or in just study groups. I don't really like being alone. I thought I was much more of an alone study person in high school, but it turns out that in college, I kind of need my group of people to talk about and share ideas with.
As a student here at UMD, I've learned a lot about what my interests are and where my passions lie. I've taken a variety of courses, and I've gained a lot of leadership experiences through my roles on campus. For example, I'm a supplemental instructor, and I found out that I really enjoy helping students learn. I've worked with students learn course material in organic chemistry and in an intro bio course. I also started a student group on campus related to women in dentistry. And for me personally, I've learned a lot about what I like and what my passions are during my time in college here at UMD.
There's actually two things that I've definitely learned within my college experience at University of Maryland. First of which is very stereotypical, time management. Time management is key to everything, balancing academics, extracurriculars, work, other things like that. You definitely have to learn time management and your time management skills. I learned it through just experience. I mean, I came in as a freshman, really didn't focus on my academics as much. I really focused on like the social settings and stuff, which ultimately hurt me. And I kind of had to rework my own plan, figure out everything for myself. Also, another thing that I've learned in college is what I'm passionate about. I mean, I learned really quick that I love working with the resident life department. I'm a part of RHA, which is the Resident Hall Association, so helping on-campus students in different ways that they may need. So those are definitely two of the biggest things that I've learned throughout my college experience.
So if I could change one thing about Maryland, I would make Maryland Day mandatory for every student to go to and have a checklist. So if you don't know, Maryland Day is a day in the spring where the university opens up its doors and all of the different departments set out these booths and tables, and there's research for each department that's set up, and students that are just showing off their thesis or what they're doing. It's so cool, and I did it with my parents, and we went to every single school around the entire campus and learned so much about the university that I otherwise never would have known. So I think as a freshman or a sophomore to have a checklist to go through Maryland Day and just see what all the different departments are doing and different schools are doing would make every student a lot more appreciative and more informed about what goes on at Maryland.
If I could change one thing about Maryland, I would probably expand my favorite study space on campus because it's a lovely space, but there's only 8 tables, so it can fill up really fast. My favorite place is the outdoor portico portion of our main library, which is McKeldin Library, and it has this really cool covered area. It's on the 2nd floor, and it's all outside, but because it's covered, it has electric outlets and everything, so it's a really nice place to study, and it's peaceful, and it's quiet, and it's outside. And you can be out there rain or shine because of the covering, and it's beautiful. But again, there's only 8 tables there, so I would love it if there were more.